Welcome, Fright Night Vault listeners. There are houses the world forgets, places that lean into silence until their wood rots and their windows sag like tired eyes. But sometimes, it is not the house that remembers us, it is what lingers inside. The Calder family never sought terror. They wanted a fresh start, a home away from the traffic and shadows of the city. They wanted quiet. The old house on Briarwood Lane offered exactly that. A crooked two-story with peeling white paint and a porch that sank in the middle like an old chest drawing its final breath. It was June when they moved in. The air was swollen with humidity, cicadas crying from the trees, and the house smelled faintly of dust and iron. To anyone else, it was simply an old place. To 11-year-old Daniel Calder, it was alive. Daniel was a boy too quiet for his age. He was the sort who listened more than he spoke, the kind of child adults mistook for shy when really, he was simply watching. He noticed things, the way the floorboards gave beneath certain steps, the way shadows seemed to pool too deeply in the corners upstairs, the way the upstairs bathroom never seemed entirely cold or warm, but both, a shiver beneath the skin. It was the second night when Daniel first saw it. His bedroom sat at the end of the hall, across from the narrow attic door that had been painted shut years ago. The hall stretched like a throat, dim at night, the wallpaper's faded floral pattern twisting into faces if one stared too long. That evening, after the family had gone to bed, Daniel woke at 1:34 a.m. to the sound of footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Not the shuffle of his father, not the hurried trip of his mother. Something heavier, like a dragging presence just beyond his door. Daniel froze, eyes wide in the dim wash of the nightlight. His throat tightened, but curiosity, cruel as it often is in children, drew him to the door. He pressed his ear to the wood, breathing. On the other side, he backed away, heart hammering when the doorknob twitched, not turned fully, just tested, as though someone or something was deciding whether to come in. Then, silence. He told his mother the next morning. Evelyn Calder brushed it aside. "It's an old house, sweetheart," she said while packing lunches. "They creak, they groan. You'll get used to it," Daniel insisted. The doorknob moved, he said. Someone was outside his door, but his father, Robert, laughed it away with the ease of a man too busy for ghosts. "You've been reading too many of those scary books," he chuckled, ruffling his son's hair. But Daniel knew. For the next week, it returned. Sometimes footsteps, sometimes the creak of weight settling against the wall outside his room. Once, he woke to the sound of scratching against the painted attic door, long, slow, deliberate strokes, like nails trailing across wood. He stared at the dark crack beneath it and swore he saw something shift, a faint black drip like shadow pouring down before vanishing. Nobody believed him. His mother's patience waned. "Daniel, you need to stop with these stories. You're scaring your sister." His father was sterner. "Another word of this nonsense and we're cutting those books out completely. No more ghost stories." But it wasn't a story. On the 12th night, Daniel lay wide awake, clutching the blankets beneath his chin when he saw the shape. At first, it seemed like nothing more than a trick of light. Something leaning in the hall, tall, too tall for a man. Its head scraped just shy of the ceiling, its body bent at wrong angles, as though joints had been rearranged. Its face was wrong. A hollow where the features should be, with eyes that were only pits of pale, humming light. It didn't move, didn't breathe, just stared through the open crack of his bedroom door. Daniel shut his eyes tight. When he opened them again, the hall was empty. He told his parents again, his voice breaking, but they dismissed him. His sister, Lydia, only 4, started waking with nightmares. She'd cry in the night, sobbing about the man in the hall without ever hearing Daniel's words. Still, their mother and father refused to hear it, until the night Evelyn Calder saw it herself. It was past 2 a.m. when she stirred from bed. A sound had woken her. a tapping, faint, from down the hall. She thought of Daniel, awake again, restless with his stories. With an exhale of weary annoyance, she slipped on her robe and padded barefoot down the hallway. The house was heavy with stillness, and then she saw it. A figure stood outside Daniel's door, leaning too close, its head cocked at a shuddering angle, its arms dangling as though half torn from sockets. Its face was nothing but a stretched plane of skin, and from its seams bled a pale, throbbing light that seeped down the cracks of its body like veins of fire in stone. It turned toward her. The mother froze, mouth opening in a soundless scream, because in the moment its hollow face met hers, she knew her son had never been lying, and that was only the beginning. Evelyn Calder did not scream. Her body betrayed her, locking in place as though her bones had turned to stone. The figure at the end of the hallway, its pulsing light seeping from cracks in its faceless head, its long, broken arms trembling, tilted toward her. For a breathless instant, it did not move closer. It only watched. The sound returned, that slow, deliberate scratching at the painted attic door. A nail dragged against wood, then another. Long, slow, aching strokes. The figure turned its head toward the sound, then back to Evelyn, as if waiting for her to notice, to understand. When she blinked, it was gone. The hallway was empty. Daniel's door stood still. The attic door was silent, but the air was charged, as though the house itself had drawn breath and was holding it. Evelyn's pulse hammered against her throat as she staggered back into her bedroom, shutting the door with trembling hands. She lay beside Robert, wide-eyed in the dark, listening to his even, oblivious breathing. She told herself not to wake him, that it would sound insane, that maybe she had been half asleep, dreaming on her feet. But beneath her ribs, she knew the truth. Her son was not lying. The next morning, her silence broke. "Robert," she said, setting coffee on the table, voice low, tight. "I saw it, in the hall." Her husband frowned, still half buried in the newspaper. "Saw what?" "The thing Daniel keeps talking about. It was standing there, outside his door. Robert, it was..." Her voice trembled. It was real. Her husband's laugh was sharp, brittle. "Evelyn, listen to yourself. You're just feeding into his imagination." She slammed her hand against the table, the sound startling even her. "I am not imagining this." The children froze. Daniel's fork clattered against his plate, wide eyes staring between them. Lydia whimpered, sinking into her chair. Robert lowered his paper. "You're scaring them," he said, voice low and edged. "This house is old. It creaks, it shifts, it settles. That's all. Don't make it into something it isn't." But Evelyn had seen the cracks glowing. She had seen the faceless head, the body trembling as though it were breaking itself apart just to stand there. That night, she sat outside Daniel's door with a chair pulled close. A mother's guard. She clutched a flashlight tight in her hands, though she knew it would do nothing. The air thickened around midnight, growing colder, heavier, as though the walls themselves leaned closer to listen. 1 o'clock, 1:15, 1:20. At 1:34 a.m., the scratching began. The attic door groaned, faint, as though tested from the other side. The painted seam rattled. Evelyn lifted the flashlight and shone it down the hall, her throat closing. The light fell across the figure. It was nearer this time, halfway between her and the attic door. Its body writhed as though something inside pressed to get out, its limbs jerking in spasms. The glow beneath its skin throbbed brighter, bleeding through cracks like molten veins. Its faceless head bent toward her. And then Daniel's doorknob turned. The door cracked open, her son's frightened face peering out. And the thing turned, sudden, violent, lunging toward him. Evelyn screamed, dropping the flashlight as she shoved Daniel's door shut, slamming her back against it. The knob rattled, twisting beneath her grip, not from her son this time, but from outside, where the faceless figure scraped and writhed. "Mom!" Daniel cried from behind the door. "Stay back!" Evelyn shouted. Her whole body shook as the pressure ceased. The hallway fell still. Robert thundered down the stairs, face flushed with anger. What in God's name is going on? But when he turned the corner, there was nothing there, just Evelyn, pale and trembling, holding the doorknob in white-knuckled grip. The next day, Robert's denial deepened. "You're feeding into him," he said again, eyes cold. "If you both keep this up, you'll drive Lydia out of her mind." But Lydia was already changing. She had begun to hum in the evenings, tuneless, strange, a low droning whisper that made Evelyn's skin crawl. Daniel swore the tune was the same sound he heard in the hall some nights, humming through the walls. By the third week, Evelyn was frayed, nerves shredded thin. Robert worked late, staying away longer, muttering about her hysteria on the phone when he thought she couldn't hear. The house grew oppressive, each corner thick with shadow, every night swelling with the promise of the figure's return. It came again at 1:34. This time, Evelyn did not wait. She opened Daniel's door herself, slipping inside, locking it behind them. He clutched her hand, tears streaking his face. "See," he whispered, "you believe me now, don't you?" She held him tight, heartbreaking. "I believe you." They sat in silence, listening. The steps came slow, dragging down the hallway, a weight pressing the floorboards, the crackle of skin tearing as light seeped from its wounds. The knob twisted again, slow, deliberate. From the other side of the door came a whisper, not Daniel's, not hers, but layered voices, like dozens speaking through one torn mouth. "Let us in." Evelyn pressed her hand over Daniel's ear, trembling. The whisper came again, louder, "Let us in." And then, Lydia's small voice from outside the door. "Mommy, open the door. He wants to meet you." Evelyn's blood froze. Daniel sobbed, clinging to her arm. She knew her daughter's voice, but she also knew her daughter was asleep down the hall. Evelyn whispered through the dark, "That wasn't her." The knob stilled. The hallway fell silent. When Evelyn dared to open the door hours later, the hall was empty. The attic door, though, bore fresh marks, deep gouges as though claws had torn through layers of paint. By morning, Lydia did not remember coming to the hall. She blinked in confusion when Evelyn asked, swore she had been dreaming of faces in the walls. Evelyn finally broke. She packed bags. She pleaded with Robert. "We have to leave. I don't care where we go. We cannot stay here." But Robert's anger boiled over. "Enough. This ends tonight. No more stories. No more madness. I'll prove it to you." That evening, he took a hammer to the attic door. Paint split, wood cracked, the nails shrieking loose. Daniel screamed for him to stop, sobbing that it wasn't supposed to be opened. Evelyn begged him, but Robert only snarled, "You'll see there's nothing here." The door groaned open. The stench hit first, sweet rot like old fruit and spoiled meat. The attic was nothing but black, the air thick as tar. Robert shone his flashlight into the dark, and the dark moved. Something shifted inside. Faces stretched across the walls like flesh, pressed thin, mouths opening in soundless cries. A pale, blistered hand slipped from the dark before snapping back. The light fell on the figure crouched at the far end. Taller than the space should allow, its faceless head scraping the slanting roof, its skin split and leaking pale fire. It rose, unfolding with the sound of cracking timber. Robert stumbled back, face gone white. "What?" The figure surged forward. Evelyn screamed, pulling her children away as the attic seemed to split open with its weight, its limbs thrashing like broken branches. The house itself seemed to shudder as the figure poured out, its glow filling the hallway, faceless head tilted toward them. The scratching, the whispers, the hum, they all came at once, echoing in layered voices. Let us in. And for the first time, Robert Calder believed. The house became a throat, choking on screams. The figure lurched from the attic, spilling into the hallway like a shadow made flesh, its limbs dragged with wet cracks, elbows bending backward, shoulders tearing wide as the pale light beneath its skin pulsed brighter. Each step made the wallpaper curl and blacken as though the walls recoiled from its touch. Robert staggered backward, hammer slipping from his hand. Jesus Christ! He gasped, but the word died in his throat. Daniel screamed. Lydia clutched Evelyn's nightgown, eyes wide with a child's incomprehensible terror. Evelyn shoved them both behind her, instinct stronger than her own fear. The faceless head turned, hollow and luminous, tilting with an insect's jerking motion. Its body trembled as though dozens of trapped things pressed beneath its skin, desperate to claw their way out. The air filled with a sickening chorus, groans, sobs, a wet rattling laugh that did not belong to one throat, but many. Let us in. The words poured from its trembling body, layered, echoing, as though every voice in the attic joined in unison. Robert finally moved. He grabbed his wife's arm, yanking her toward the stairs. Move! But as they fled, Lydia screamed. Her small body stiffened, eyes rolling white as if yanked by invisible strings. She went limp in Evelyn's arms, then convulsed violently, her mouth opening too wide. From her throat came the same voice as the figure. Let us in. Evelyn shrieked, clutching her daughter to her chest, stumbling after Robert down the staircase. The figure lurched after them, its glowing cracks brightening, spilling light that scorched shadows across the walls. The family crashed into the living room, the lamps flickering violently, glass bulbs bursting one by one. The figure entered, filling the doorway. The light inside it spread across the ceiling, jagged veins of illumination searing into the plaster like burns. Robert grabbed the fireplace poker, brandishing it like a weapon. His arms shook. Stay back. The thing bent forward, jerking closer, its head lowering until it nearly scraped the floor. Its body cracked open wider, ribs splitting as more light seeped through. From within came the sounds of other things moving. Nails clawing against bone. Mouths chewing against flesh. It surged forward. Robert swung the poker with a raw, desperate cry. The metal passed through it as though through smoke, yet sparks of light burst from the wound. The figure shrieked, a sound that rattled glass and split Evelyn's ears. Daniel clamped his hands over his head, screaming. The blow bought them seconds, nothing more. Basement! Evelyn shouted, dragging Lydia's trembling body as Robert shoved Daniel ahead of him. They barreled down the narrow steps, the basement door slamming shut above them. The basement was a tomb. Damp concrete, cold stone walls, the faint smell of mold. Robert jammed the poker through the door handles, locking it as best he could. Silence fell, but silence was worse, because in that silence, they heard the voices all around them, from the pipes, from the walls, from the very floor, whispers seeping into their bones. Let us in. Let us in. Let us in. Daniel sobbed, clutching his mother's sleeve. Evelyn rocked Lydia, whose body spasmed with convulsions, her lips moving without sound. Robert's face was pale, sweat dripping from his temples. For the first time, his denial cracked. What? What the hell is it? Evelyn's voice trembled. It's not the house. It's what's inside. It wants us. It's always wanted us. The basement light flickered, sputtered. Shadows warped across the walls. For a moment, they weren't shadows at all, but faces, hundreds, mouths open in silent screams, eyes hollow and burning. Then, Lydia's eyes snapped open. They glowed. A pale light, the same as the figures. Her lips peeled back in a grin too wide for her small face. Her voice came in that same layered chorus. You opened the door. Evelyn screamed, clutching her daughter tighter. "No! No!" The basement shook. Dust rained from the rafters. The poker rattled as something slammed against the door above. Once, twice, the wood cracked. Robert grabbed Daniel, pulling him back toward the far wall. Evelyn followed, dragging Lydia, whose body twisted and convulsed in her arms, her mouth gaping wider, wider as the light bled from her throat. Then the basement wall itself split. Fissures tore through the concrete, glowing from within. From the cracks came hands. Too many hands, pale and blistered, clawing out as faces pressed through the stone. Mouths opened in unison, shrieking the same words. "Let us in!" The house groaned. It was no longer wood and stone. It was flesh, a body containing them, a prison for everything that had ever been dragged inside. The door above shattered. The figure spilled down the stairs, body convulsing, limbs dragging broken angles. Its hollow head tilted as it advanced, light flooding the basement, the hands in the walls reaching harder toward the Calder family. Robert screamed, shoving Daniel behind him. Evelyn cradled Lydia as her daughter's body lifted into the air, limbs jerking like a puppet, her glowing eyes fixed on her brother. "Daniel," she whispered, but it was not her voice. "He wants you." The figure stretched its arms wide. The walls cracked further, groaning as though the house itself would collapse inward. The voices thundered, layered upon layered, rattling the marrow in their bones. "Let us in. Let us in. Let us in." Daniel wailed, "What do they want?" And Evelyn knew. She knew in her gut, in the trembling weight of her daughter's body in her arms, in the chorus that had haunted every night since they moved in. They didn't want the house. They wanted them to join, to become part of the endless faces pressed in walls. The voices fused into one. The figure surged forward, ribs splitting wide as its body opened like a gaping wound. The light inside so blinding it turned the basement white. Within its hollow chest were faces, dozens, hundreds, screaming, reaching, clawing for release. The Calders had nowhere left to run. The basement blazed with pale, searing light. The figure's chest split wide, ribs cracking open to reveal a hollow furnace of writhing faces. They pressed forward, their mouths stretching in silent screams, their hands clawing against the thin membrane of glowing flesh that trapped them inside. Robert shielded his eyes, staggering backward. Evelyn clutched Lydia's twisting body, her arms trembling as her daughter's small frame spasmed with impossible strength. Daniel pressed himself against the far wall, sobbing as voices roared in his ears. "Let us in! Let us in!" The house shook with the chorus, beams groaning, pipes shrieking, dust raining from above. The walls themselves seemed to close in, fissures splitting open to reveal more faces trapped in the stone, their eyes glowing with the same hungry light. Robert lunged. Grabbing Evelyn's arm, he pulled her and the children toward the far corner, where the coal chute rusted shut. He swung the fireplace poker with savage desperation, smashing at the iron latch. Sparks flew, metal screeched, and with one final cry the door gave way, cold night air spilling through. "Go!" Robert shouted. "Take them!" Evelyn tried to push Daniel through first, but Lydia thrashed in her arms, her head snapping back, jaw cracking wider than humanly possible. Light poured from her mouth as the voices shrieked louder. "She's ours," they hissed. "She's ours already." "Mommy?" Lydia whimpered, and for one flicker of a second, it was her. Just her. Her small voice, fragile, terrified. Evelyn's heart broke in two. She pressed her lips against her daughter's temple. "I'm sorry." And with a mother's raw, impossible strength, she shoved Lydia into Robert's arms, then pushed Daniel after him. "Get them out!" she screamed. Robert grabbed both children, forcing them through the chute into the night air. He turned back for his wife, but Evelyn's face was set, tears streaking down her cheeks. "Go!" she cried. The figure lunged. Robert shoved himself through, dragging Daniel and Lydia out onto the damp earth as the chute slammed shut behind him with a deafening crack. He scrambled to his feet, hauling his children away from the house, the glow from within burning through the windows like a furnace set loose. Inside, Evelyn stood alone. The figure towered before her, its hollow face tilting, its ribs yawning wide to reveal the endless prison of souls. The voices thundered as the walls buckled and split, the house shuddering like a living thing ready to collapse inward. Evelyn lifted her chin. "Take me then. Leave them." The figure stilled. The chorus hushed, a silence more terrible than the noise. Then, slowly, it bent toward her, its arms wrapped around her body, pulling her into its hollow chest. The light engulfed her, her scream vanishing into the chorus. Her face was the last thing to appear in the glowing cavity, pressed against the membrane of flesh, mouth open in endless cry. Outside, Robert clutched his children as the house convulsed. Windows shattered outward, spilling white fire across the lawn. The walls groaned, split, and then fell inward as though consumed from within. And then, silence. The house collapsed into itself, nothing left but a charred, sunken pit glowing faintly in the night. The air stank of rot and smoke. The cicadas had gone silent. Robert wept, clutching Daniel and Lydia close. His wife was gone, but worse, Lydia's eyes still glowed faintly, a pale light flickering behind her pupils like embers refusing to die. Days passed. Authorities called it a structural collapse, an accident, a tragedy. They never explained the scorch marks that bled outward from the ruins, or why no animals went near the property after. The Calder family left town, Robert hollow, Daniel silent, Lydia too quiet for a child her age. But at night sometimes, when the house was only memory, Lydia would hum, a low, tuneless drone that made Daniel's skin crawl. And sometimes, when driving past Briarwood Lane, they'd glimpse it, the empty lot where the house once stood, only it wasn't empty, because every so often, in the hollow pit where the ruins had sunk, a light flickered, pale, pulsing, as though a heart still beat beneath the earth. And if you looked too long, you could swear a figure stood there, taller than any man, its faceless head bent in silent watch, waiting. Always waiting. If you made it this far, you're one of us. Subscribe so you don't miss what crawls out next. See you on the next one. And remember, Vault Master hungers for your stories too. Share your own hauntings in the comments, and perhaps the next tale to echo through these halls will be yours.